Hello, welcome to the FloraPulse installation video. Here we're going to show you how to do an installation into almonds, but the process is the same for most other trees and vines. For placement, you'll want to install the sensor either towards the top of the main trunk of the tree or at the base of a main branch. Keep in mind that where you place the sensor has to be at least 2 inches in diameter. Okay, so first off, we're going to start out with the sleeve that comes in your kit. It comes with this cap, so you can unthread the cap from it and put it to the side for now. Then once you do that, you can find that the sleeve has this vent hole on top, and it also has these 2 nails on either side. First installation, what you want to do is push the sleeve against the tree, and we're just going to start hammering and keep going until it stops. I'm going to show you on a different sleeve that this little ledge here is what we're hammering until. So this step will stop it as soon as it hits the xylem. We're going to keep hammering, and that looks pretty good. All right, the next step is to use the end mill that comes with your kit, and what we're going to do is we're going to drill into the sleeve up until it stops, like so. So as you can see, it'll make a hole touching the xylem. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in my drill. And you want to go in and out a couple of times. And while you're doing this, you sort of just want to bump the end of the sleeve against the stop, just to make sure it's not pushing the sleeve or anything, and you get the proper depth. All right, so after we drill it out, we're going to check, and we're going to make sure that we have a nice, clean, white xylem and that there's no decay or anything. And I'm going to take my spatula really quick and just clean out any excess debris. And something to note while you're doing your installs is that once you drill into the xylem, you'll want to complete your installation within a few hours, just to make sure that the xylem doesn't dry out. This is pretty straightforward, but you don't want to have your xylem dry out because then the sensor won't work. Now that we have the hole drilled out, we're ready to put the sensors in. You're going to take your cowlin that comes in your kit, and this is another thing that dries out quite quickly, so we want to work fast with it. Just going to make sure it's working. All right. We're going to stick the syringe all the way in the back and fill from the back to the front. You want to make sure it's really full and that there are no bubbles. And the cowlin just makes a nice conduit between the sensor and the tree. And you'll see some of it pop out the vent hole. All right, we go ahead and recap that really fast. And again, working quickly, you'll take your sensor. It comes in a capsule full of water to prevent it from drying out, and we're going to pop that out and set it in gently. You don't want to push the sensor because the cap will push it in, and you don't want to damage it. Just set it in gently, take our cap behind the spring, and screw it back on. And you can take your napkins and kind of clean. There we go. So now the sensor is making a connection with the xylem, and it'll equilibrate to the tree in about a day. I'll also take my spatula and clean up a little more of the cowlin. Doesn't need to be perfect, it's just nice to make sure we can see the parts and that it's not completely covered. Because the next step is we're going to take our grease and we're going to cover the vent hole and the ring around the sleeve. Just so we got a nice tight seal around the sensor. Right, so we're basically done with this sensor. The next step is to chain a couple zip ties together and chain the probe to the tree. We do this so that there's no tension on the probe, and that we can keep it in there and avoid pulling on it. All right, if that looks good, then the next step is to do another installation in the same tree. We generally recommend doing 2 installations in the same tree for reliability purposes. So again, we're going to start with the sleeve, and I'm going to go ahead and do this really quick. The next step is going to be to put a piece of batting around the probes. So the batting serves 2 purposes. One is to kind of temperature regulate the sensor, and the other is it has this foil backing, so as you're going through your field you can easily spot your system. Your batting might look a little bit different than mine. In California, we use this denim batting to keep rodents and pests out of our sensors. But if you're in somewhere that gets a little bit more rain, you might have a bubble wrap batting so it doesn't hold as much moisture. All right, so once again, we're going to chain together some zip ties, and I'm going to move these wires up so that they can be close to the tree and wrap the tree. Sometimes you might even need 3 zip ties. And we're going to do 1 on top and 1 on the bottom. So now that this part looks good, the next step will be to attach the data logger. This is what your data logger looks like. It'll come with a piece of cardboard on top and will activate once it hits the sunlight. It has these attachment points on either side, so we want to try to attach it at 3 to prevent it from rotating, and it should be facing up in the canopy so that it gets proper sunlight. So the first thing is you're going to need to attach the external antennas. All right, so we're going to kind of snake it through the branches here, and I like to look for a Y-shaped branch that's facing up. And we kind of want to keep in mind that we're trying to find a place to hang these later to keep them out of the way. So here's a branch here shaped like a Y, and that way we can have 1, 2, 3 zip ties attached to my logger here. And make sure it's nice and tight and that it's not rotating. And we can take the wire cutters that come in your installation kit and cut off the excess zip tie. Now that your data logger's up, we're so close to being done, but we just have all these wires that are hanging down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some other zip ties and loop these up tightly so that I can hang them in a tight loop and that they're up and away from any machinery that might come through the orchard here. And feel free to zip tie as many points on the wires as you think necessary. So this is tightly around here. I put a zip tie here for extra security, and I'm going to put 1 more against this branch. Cut the excess if I so choose. And that's it. Thank you for watching.